Okay, I've got 6 o'clock by the computers, so we'll go ahead and get started with the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting December 12th. We will start with a roll call, please.
Garner,
Here.
Miller,
Here.
Daffer, Turner,
Here.
Kehoe, Morgan,
Here.
Kirkman, Salmon,
Here.
Van Auker.
Here. And we have a few things just for you in the audience. We've just got a couple of housekeeping items before we get into the meat of the meeting tonight, so bear with us while we get through those items. Rodney, report on council actions and staff communications, please.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, thank you. This should be really quick. There's just two items on the City Council meeting. The first one of December. That was, the first one was an annexation and zoning to RS6 and BC zoning and preliminary plat for Audrey Acres. That's the one at 941 Lake Lowell Avenue. You recommended approval. That was approved by City Council. However, there were a couple of changes to the recommendation. They pared back some of the land uses that are allowed by the BC zone, and essentially took it back down to as if it were a BN zone, a business neighborhood zone, so that it didn't have the same impacts to the neighboring communities. They also limited the access to the Augusta subdivision. This is the one where they had access to both the north and the south from stubbed roads through two different subdivisions, and there was a lot of concern from the Augusta subdivision about that access through their subdivision. And so the City Council approved it, but limited that access to emergency access only. So there really is only one access into this little subdivision. I think there was only 20 lots to that. And then another one was a variance that you wouldn't see, but it was a variance because the garage had been built into the side yard setback right up to the property line. It was done without permits, so nobody knew about it, and they were asking for a variance to leave it there. Staff had recommended denial because it didn't meet the criteria for a variance, and the applicant saw that recommendation of denial and requested additional time to build their arguments for it, and so that was continued. That will be considered in February by City Council. Those are the only two items I have.
Okay. Any communications? We have legal here if you want him to. Just
Yeah,
go ahead.
the attorney is the one that will respond to the second item there.
Okay. Mr. Attorney?
You bet. Mr. Chair, fellow commissioners, so I met a few of you. I'm Joe Borton, part of Borton Lakey. We're the city attorneys for the city of Nampa. We cover everything, including all of the public hearings for city council and now P&Z. So my partner, Todd Lakey, some of you or most of you might already know. You may be seeing some of him or myself or Brian Norton in the back. You met him a little bit before as well, one of our land use attorneys. And Brian will probably have the lion's share of planning and zoning. But just real briefly, we had suggested that, you know, we occupy the seat and sort of sit here and be available as a resource for you, for the substance of what you guys discuss and also the process to make sure everything's done correctly, the due process is followed. There's issues have arisen in other cities in how some land use matters were handled, and one of the things we wanted to, starting today and through next year, just be here and available, ensure that process is followed. Right? The things that you certainly probably already do, but are critical when you're doing any of your land use hearings, from ensuring that there is a set amount of time that the developer gets to make a presentation, set amount of time that the public provides their comment. It's the same amount of time for everybody, consistently applied. Things that seem simple and obvious, but what's happened in again, some neighboring communities is some of those steps get skipped. And the ultimate consequence can be you go through all of the work and an aggrieved party can question the process that was used to get to whatever decision was made. And the remedy is start over. And you got to go back, and everyone's got to waste a lot of money and time to do it all over again. So kind of what Brian and I do is we'll be here quietly, but there may be a time where we might, interrupt and just make sure the order of things is still done in accordance with code to make sure nothing gets sideways, so there's not a due process violation. Things like, the developer always presenting last. Some of these principles you can't waive. There's a lot of the things that have to be done in a certain order to make sure the process is due and complete. So those are examples. We'll bring some up, and we're also available anytime offline, either in a meeting, come ask a question. You can come, whisper a question if you have one, or certainly ask on the record, or anytime during the week if questions arise. And then we'll provide suggestions, usually through the chair, of things that can help ensure the process is done correct, because the last thing you ever want is to go through all the work that you do preparing and having the public show up at a public hearing and have some procedure gone a little sideways, or you skipped a step, or prevented someone from speaking when they're allowed to speak, or vice versa. That makes the whole thing blow up and have to start over. So that's kind of our role. Otherwise, we'll be, available, but relatively quiet, and just make sure everything's done according to code. So Brian and I have your back through the process. And it also helps the public to make sure that everything's done fairly and appropriately for the public and the applicants as well.
Cool.
Thank you.
Okay? All right.
So is your meter at like half rate until we ask a question, and then it kicks up to full rate?
Started right now.
Oh, okay. All right.
You asked a
Moving on. Thank you for that, and we appreciate you being here.
Got it.
And hopefully we won't have to lean on you too much. So moving on, I'll go ahead and entertain a motion for adoption of the consent agenda unless there's any discussion.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Give the motion to Commissioner Selman, second to Kehoe, because he gets all the seconds. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? All right, seeing none, that motion carries. That included, yep, okay. So on to new business. We have 2024 appointments of chair and vice chair for the commission for next year. So I guess if anybody wants to make a recommendation on who, or if one of you would like to chair the meetings and want to kick me out of chairman, I'm open to that.
Mr. Chairman, I propose that you continue your service as the chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded for me to remain as chairman. Can I vote on that?
No,
Okay, good. Any discussion on that?
not unless it's a tie.
I'm happy to do it unless somebody else wants to. No? All right. Everyone's quiet, I guess. Can't we make the person that's not here chair?
We can.
Good surprise in January. All right, I'm just kidding. I'll stop joking. So I will accept if that that works. So let's have a vote. All those in favor of Ron Van Auker Jr. as chairman of the Planning and Zoning Commission for 2024, signify by saying aye.
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 Jeez, Jeff, that was not very enthusiastic, but I'll take it.
Oh,
Any?
sorry, I was reading alongside that.
I'm joking. Any opposed? Okay, that seeing none, motion carries. So, how about a recommendation for vice chair for 2024?
Mr. Chairman, I would propose that Tom Turner continue his service as vice chair for 2023 or 2024.
Second.
All right, motion by Gardner, second by Kehoe. Would you like to say anything or discuss?
No, I'm good.
Okay, we're good. All those in favor for Tom Turner as vice chair for 2024, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Got the new business out of the way. We'll move on to public hearings. We have 3 items this evening because item number 1 was, requested to continue. We'll need to open it and make a motion to continue, correct?
That's correct,
Yep.
yep.
Not him, not you. I'm just kidding. So just before we get going tonight, I wanted to go over kind of the process. There's a number of you in the audience. I don't know if it's your first time here, but if it is, and we'll open the meeting, we'll have the applicant come up, present their project. We give them 7 minutes to make their presentations, and then we will have them close. The staff will go over the staff report that we all had in front of us from last week, and been able to review this over the weekend and prepare for this meeting. Staff has unlimited time because they're the city. They get to go over all the details. And then we'll move to public testimony. If you haven't already signed up, please sign up and indicate if you'd like to speak or not. We'll give you the chance to speak as we come to your name, and if anybody wants to speak this evening, that's why we're here, to listen to your concerns or questions. Get those out. You have 3 minutes to ask questions or provide testimony. After we've gone through the list on those speaking for, against, or undecided on the projects, we will hear from the applicant again. He or she will have 5 minutes to rebut, answer questions, provide closing comments, and then we'll close the public hearing, deliberate amongst the commission, and render a decision on each item. So that's the process, and without any more delays, we will go ahead and open the public hearing for the annexation and zoning to RS 8.5 zoning district for 57.1 acres, potential development agreement and subdivision preliminary plat for Lakeview subdivision at 12529 Midway Road and 0 Iowa Avenue. For Flex Space LLC representing Karen Lee and Bob Lee Anderson, for 1 existing single-family home and 155 single-family detached residential and 11 common lots. This applicant has requested continuation to the January 23rd, 2024 meeting. I would entertain a motion to continue this hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved by Commissioner Miller and seconded by Kehoe to continue this action item to the January 23rd, 2024 meeting. Any discussion on that? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. That will be heard again on January 23rd. Next item on the agenda this evening is a zoning map amendment from RA to RD. Zoning district at 1105 and 1113 West Orchard Avenue. 0.33 acres for Darla Braun, representing Marvin and Darla Braun, Revocable Living Trust, to remove an existing manufactured home at 1105 West Orchard and construct a single-family home or duplex. The existing home at 1113 is proposed to remain as a single-family home or converted to a duplex. Is the applicant here this evening? Looks like it. Come on up and state your name and address for the record, and then tell us what you'd like to do.
Hello, Nampa City Council Chair and Commissioners. I am Darla Braun, lived at 1025 West Orchard Avenue, representing Marvin and Darla Braun Revocable Living Trust. I have with me this evening my husband Marv and our 3 sons, Dustin, Dalton, and Dakota Braun. Thank you for allowing us to be considered for the zoning map amendment from RA Suburban Residential to RD 2-family duplex residential. Zoning district at 1105 and 1113 West Orchard Avenue, 2 parcels totaling 0.33 acres. Our original concept is to remove the existing mobile home at 1105 West Orchard Avenue and construct a single-family home or duplex.
Can we get this down a little bit? Thanks.
Yeah, okay. The existing home located at 1113 West Orchard is proposed to remain as a single-family home or converted to a duplex, but no changes at this time are expected for that address. We have read through the staff report and conditions and appreciate the intent to approve this request as stated. We would like to ask for consideration to adjust or remove some of the conditions of approval which were not completely called out when this initiated. In looking at the conditions of approval, number 2, we understand that the request for the right-of-way width of 50 feet is listed. However, when it was verbally discussed that due to the differences on the east of Escalade Place being at 50 feet and on the west of Grove Way being at 40 feet, the requirements for right-of-way we were granted was written and approved at 40 feet. We asked this to be left at 40 feet as written in the right-of-way, which we recently granted to the city of Nampa. And then in regards to the condition of approval number 4, we understand the request to consolidate accesses to a single shared access with turnaround space on the parcels at time of redevelopment of either parcel. These are currently acting as 2 independent addresses and segregated with intermountain gas lines running between the middle of these 2 driveways. All aspects of electricity, water, sewer, and are segregated utilities for each address. And we would ask to have them remain as separate parcels without shared roadway access. This would ensure that if 1113 Orchard so desired, we would have the option to seek a permit to add a garage without requiring a complete redevelopment of that said parcel and driveway access. Please note that both drives today are currently wide enough to turn around a vehicle within them to alleviate backing out on Orchard Avenue, which is the primary concern. Please look at the submitted proposal of the dwelling plans for 1105 West Orchard property from Hanu Homes that was included in the staff report. We requested a 3-car garage on this home, which is ample space to turn around without backing out on Orchard Avenue as well. We ask that the requirement to consolidate accesses to a single shared access with turnaround be removed with the information we've provided. Thank you for your time and consideration of these requests to approve our rezone request. Do I stay here or do I?
Just a quick question for you. Have you spoken with staff about the request for the 2 conditions you mentioned?
I did. I had sent an email back to Parker, and he copied an engineer, and then Caleb called me this evening and prior to the meeting, and we discussed some options. He did say he will state his side for the city, of course, understanding my request and the discussions we had. He was part of some of those, so between
Okay.
Parker and Caleb, yes.
I'm sure we'll get into it. Thank you. Any other questions? All right, let's hear from staff. Parker.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Excuse me if I cough. I'm trying to control a tickle. The request is a rezone from RA to RD. The stated purpose, as shown and as has been mentioned. This area is surrounded by RD to the north, east, and west, and then the RA zone to the south, being a large lot, single-family home. To the west and the east are 2-unit townhouses. The history here, this was annexed and zoned in 1987, and it was annexed to RA. It hasn't been changed since then. The lot, the subject property was split in July as approved by staff. The correspondence here, they would be subject to the building code as far as moving, removing, constructing any buildings on the property. The engineering comments has been briefly mentioned, driveway requirements, legal description corrections, and listed some frontage improvements that would take place with redevelopment. And I will let Caleb answer any questions when those questions come up. The area, this is all medium density, as you can see on the map there. The RD zoning district fits within that medium density area. The RD zoning is intended to provide a variety of housing types, single-family dwellings, as well as some of the other housing types, such as 2-unit attached dwellings, both as duplexes and townhouses. And then we allow townhouses in 3 or 4 attached units as well in medium density. The difference between those is obviously the home ownership portion. Duplexes are owned by a single unit, whereas townhouses are individually owned units. The comprehensive plan lists some smart growth principles for medium density, describing streetscapes, common spaces, planting strips. The elements that are involved in there are typical of a single-family development. It describes human scale streetscapes, landscaping, and ultimately describes the interplay between architecture and indoor-outdoor elements. The comprehensive plan also highlights the need to provide single-family residential land uses, objectives in adding innovative housing options in the zoning code, as well as locating housing in areas that need that improve employment and education opportunities. The property is currently zoned RA. The RD would be creating greater density in an area of the city that already has city services, so it can be viewed as infill. The goal of the comprehensive plan are to encourage this type of development. It helps to decrease sprawl to the outer edges of the cities where we don't have those services yet, both utility-wise as well as emergency response time. The property is sandwiched between 2 townhouse developments already. The proposed lots are just around about 7639 and 6,800 square feet, which fit within the RD zoning district lot size range. And the homes built would match the standard building construction of the area. You can see a exhibit on the right there of a potential housing choice. The project doesn't require a traffic impact study. Development access would be according to the city access management policy. Again, I'll let Caleb answer that question. As far as the zoning, staff doesn't have any issue with the proposed RD zoning. It matches the area and it meets the comprehensive plan. And it would be compatible with the area. Utilities are available, and it's considered to be infill. Conditions of approval are those listed in the staff report, and we'll stand for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, we will proceed to public testimony for this application. We have the sign-up sheet.
Mr. Chair, we have one speaker, Mr. Curtis Kraft, signed up.
I'm waving.
Okay. So, no, you're just, are you on for the wrong item or for the wrong application? So or you don't want to speak on this application? So did you sign up on accident or?
I didn't understand what it was explaining. I'm waiting for another one.
Gotcha. Okay. That's what I got. All right. So, anybody else in the room this evening that would like to speak either for, against, or undecided on this application? You guys have any questions for the applicant?
I think I'd like to hear about the 2 conditions and what Caleb might have to say about that.
Okay. We want to do that prior to closing or? Yep.
I think so,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, just so she
Figure
can
just
have,
in case she would have the opportunity.
What do we think on the conditions?
Yes, So Caleb Leclerc, Assistant City Engineer for Nampa. Let me give a little bit of context for those. So the one regarding right-of-way, Orchard Avenue is classified a minor arterial. As a result of that, our ultimate right-of-way width plans for that road is 100 feet, a 50-foot half section. Due to the existing houses on the parcels, we are not able to deed the full 50 feet. So that's why we allowed for it to be deeded at 40 feet of right-of-way, which does match existing right-of-way adjacent to it. However, it has always been the city's policy to plan for that ultimate right-of-way width. And so that was the intent of the comment, is that as the applicant or future property owners decide to bring forth new permits or applications for development, that we plan for that future right-of-way, just in case it is needed in the future when the city goes to do a road improvement project. It's a lot easier, obviously, to have the ground open and us to then negotiate with a property owner on purchasing the right-of-way that's needed, than to have a structure that's built too close or within that future right-of-way area. And now we're having to purchase the whole lot, which becomes very expensive for the taxpayers of Nampa to fund that if that happens. So that was the intent of the right-of-way condition. We'd certainly like to keep that in there as a condition of this application, if at all possible. The context of the one with regarding shared access, so the city has an access management policy, and that policy indicates that on arterial and collector roads, the city does not issue new single lot residential access. And any access that is allowed, we have access spacing requirements. The intent is to space those accesses out far enough so that during peak hours of traffic, you have less conflict points on that main road. So the more access points you have, the more places you have vehicles turning on and off a road, it has more opportunity to slow down traffic on the road for everybody else. So we have that policy in place to help with that. In addition, anytime you have a residential access that doesn't have the ability to have vehicles turn around on the property, you're then making a situation where you may have folks having to back out onto a busy road. That's also very dangerous for traffic operations on our major arterial roads, as well as pedestrian traffic on sidewalks. This is adjacent to or nearby Nampa Christian School, so there are certainly kids that walk to school from time to time. So we certainly would consider some other options. We had discussed with the applicant earlier today about possibly looking at shifting access from the parcel that is addressed 1105 to share the access to that's just to the east there, that serves the larger parcel to the south, which is also owned by the applicant. So that's something we could certainly look at in the future. Honestly, anytime somebody comes forward with a development application on these, we're going to be scrutinizing access at that time anyways. So what we'd probably be open to is maybe modifying this condition to say applicant shall, or future property owner shall coordinate with the Nampa Engineering Division on ensuring that access meets city's access management policy with any new property development applications. And at that time, the city engineer can decide to make an exception to a policy item or not, which would be the case anyways. Does that answer your question? Can I give further clarity?
I think so. I think it's good.
Everybody good?
Caleb, what's for the two duplex developments on either side, what's the right-of-way they have dedicated?
The right-of-way on the east is deeded to 40 feet. The property to the west is deeded to 50 feet.
So I was gonna ask that same thing. So, looking at that, if the city needed a 50-foot right-of-way down the road on Grove, that's a townhouse. You're gonna have to buy up both of those in order to get your other 10 feet.
We might have to, yeah. And we want to avoid that case for any future development, which is the intent of the comment or the condition, is we don't want to have to buy up a whole house if we don't have to. So, like I said, as it exists today, it's fine. We've deeded the 40 feet, which is what we can physically do because of the existing structures. We just don't want to make anything worse with new applications that come forward. You know, if they did an addition or it was a complete tear down in a new structure, we would just want to make sure that those setbacks are adequate so that we're not causing a problem down the road.
So the one they're taking out is gonna be far enough back that eventually if you needed that 50-foot, you would have it?
That would be the intent. I haven't seen an application for that yet, so I don't know the exact orientation of the structure on the parcel.
And then the other one could stay where it's at and no more additions to it
Right.
towards Orchard.
Yeah,
That
they could
way-
make additions to it. It's just we would want those to be, you know,
In the back,
pushed back. Yeah. So.
So if we approve the 40-foot setback and say that 1105, I think is the one that's getting removed, has to be set back, assuming that 50-foot easement is there right away, so that down the road, that house doesn't have to be moved.
Right. Okay. Right. Yeah.
Good.
Any other questions? All right. Anything, applicant, if, Ms. Braun, if you'd like to add something, or if you had any other comments, now is the time.
In regards to our comments back on that, I mean, we're not opposed and we do understand the 50 feet right away. I think it's important for you guys to understand also that we've been on the property since 1980 and it's family owned, so my boys live in those houses up front. When we do build and take that trailer out, we would have intentions to put it as far back as possible due to the fact of the roadway and the busyness and accidents and things where over the years, many times people have driven into our driveways. So we understand that. I think our biggest concern to bring to light is the combined access points for the driveway and then just future builds of being able to add a garage probably to 1113. That would be our intent, not necessarily to tear it down. But when you look at the pictures, you can definitely see the concern of the 50-foot right away. It's almost on that front doorstep to that house. And I'm sure you guys can understand, traffic is heavy there. We don't want to cause any harm to our own families there. So anything that would be proposed, if we were to ever tear that down, I mean, we definitely would look at the 50 feet. We did grant the city the 40-foot of right-of-ways, almost a lot. Actually, it was just a little bit smaller than what we own for 1113 that we granted to you guys with no fees, no cost to you. And so the additional 10 feet, that's just something that would be a bargaining chip back and forth between us, I guess, on. But we do understand that, so it's not like we're oblivious to that fact.
So the one you're planning on moving and rebuilding, you plan on setting that back so that if the city needs that other 10 feet?
We would, on the basis that we're not going to build a brand-new home and put it right on the roadway. It's tough enough with what you can see in the build all around us. We would set it as far back as we could and make amends for the garage and the turnaround access point coming in from the main road.
Would you be totally opposed to sharing the access for that new home with the road that goes?
With 1025.
Yeah.
Caleb and I discussed that about options to make an access point at the back of our property. We have currently we have a 30-foot easement on that road anyways for Idaho Power because we have 2 power poles on our lines that service Midland off of there. So I'm not completely opposed to it, but I do always think of the future when my husband and I are gone and we're the kids, and I don't want to have a bunch of development issues down the road. So currently, I mean, we're fortunate enough, we work from home since COVID. It's put all of us that are in those homes, we work from home, so we're not leaving so much as it is just the traffic on the street. Not that that wouldn't change at some point in time within our lives, but we're not completely opposed to that. I don't necessarily want to make it part of a condition that's adamant that that has to happen. We will consider all options and look at what's in the best interest of you guys, the city, and ourselves as well.
So Caleb mentioned the phrasing, the rewording the condition that, you know, you would work in the future, you would work with the engineering department. Is that okay with you as far as how he proposed it?
Yeah, something with just, I guess, changing the wording from we need to do that to consideration to be given for, you know, best access points or something of that sort would be, you guys good with that? Yeah. So, yeah.
So for the home on 1113, if you're going to add a garage, it's going to be on the back, right?
It would be to the back. So if you look at that picture, where the pickup is, there's a shed right there. That shed would come out right there, and that's where the garage area would be. And it may come up to the peak of the roof just to make it a little bit bigger so more than one vehicle could fit into it. I don't know if I could point at that thing, but
No,
yeah,
I
where
think-
he's looking there.
No, you described it well.
Yeah.
So coming back, yeah, I can see where the 50-foot line comes right up to your front door.
Yeah, it's,
But,
yeah,
but you,
10 feet.
really, you don't need to do anything until you choose to like redevelop that. Like, help me understand that, Caleb. Like that, doing the 50-foot right of way would not prevent them from building the garage back there, and
That's
they're not
correct.
tearing anything down.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
the only
correct.
thing that's tearing down is 1105. That's a
Right.
mobile home, so yeah, that's what's coming out.
I guess it seems like the 50-foot right of way doesn't inhibit you from doing anything that you have planned, from what I understand. Do you see it the same way?
That is correct. It's just how it's worded in there on the basis that I've already paid a surveyor and agreed with the city when I discussed
fair.
this prior to paying the surveyor and prior to giving you the right of way. All of this was verbally discussed and agreed upon at the 40 feet, and that's how it's written. So I prefer not to have to go
Fair enough.
back and pay the money to do that again.
And again, the intent of the condition is not to require dedication of additional right-of-way. It's only intended to plan for setbacks based on that right-of-way so that we don't cause a barrier if the city ever needed to obtain more right-of-way to be able to get that.
So
Does that make sense? 'Cause
so
if
we're not asking for more right of way.
We're
We're
not
asking
asking
for a
for-
little bit more setback than
We're
we
asking
normally
for
would.
setback consideration.
So
is
so
what the
she
condition
doesn't have to
reads.
go back and do
Correct.
anything, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then can you help me understand, and you probably already said this, I apologize, the concern with the shared access between 1113 and 1103?
Yeah.
Or 1105, sorry.
So, Parker, if you could go back to that picture there. So in the middle, where that you see the gravel between the two places, the two driveways, there's actually an Intermountain gas meter that's quite large. I mean, it's probably at least 4 feet. That's in that services both houses. So that's a concern there.
So you don't want to build an overpass over that?
Not really, no. And two, just keeping them segregated. Like I said, our intent is not to sell the property, is to keep it family-owned like we are. But if something ever should arise in the need to sell, I don't want to have any conflicts of interest with shared driveways in regards to they are two separate properties. I've paid the LIDs for all the city services when we were annexed back in '87. The LIDs for both city services to 1113 and 1105 have already been paid to you guys. 1113 is on city services already. We've just never moved 1105 because of it being a mobile home, and it has its own septic and sewer, which, with the intent of the build, obviously we will hook everything up. The T's there, we just haven't ever hooked to it, so.
That makes sense, thanks.
Questions? Any other questions? Thank you.
Make the motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
It's Been moved by Gardner, seconded by Kehoe to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, public hearing's closed. Any discussion or thoughts?
Parker, do you mind pulling up the conditions again? Okay, thank you. So do we need to restate number 2, or does it,
No, I
is it okay as is?
good because it's just
Account for
ultimate. So I think we're good with that one. It's just restating number 4 to something that both sides are happy with.
And so, yeah, we just do something along the lines of what Caleb said. Owner shall coordinate accesses to the properties with city engineer
Time of development.
at time of development. Does that work?
Sounds good to me.
Sounds like a motion to me.
Yep.
You got it, Drew? You want to do it?
Yeah, I'll try.
Or do we need to say on future development so it doesn't include this one?
So it doesn't include
Any
which one?
future development beyond this? Because
Well, I think it's when they develop the 1105.
Yeah, when they
Figure
put the
it out.
house on it, the proposed development, right?
When they build
So-
that house. But until that point,
Right.
nothing has to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the development of the new house that's intended to go on the house or duplex, that would be the time of development, right?
Yeah, so do we need to state the address that we care about the development on, or just say at time of development? Doesn't matter.
I suppose
I
we're
think
fine
it-
either way.
I think it would, because I think the proposal is to address 1105, because there's an opportunity to maybe take it off of that driveway.
On
and I
either
think-
one.
And then you would just leave the other one where it's at.
I think that would make sense.
Can you go back to the other page, Parker? I'll make a motion. I move to recommend approval of the zoning map amendment from RA to RD zoning district at 1105 and 1113 West Orchard Avenue with all conditions listed in staff report, with condition number 3 being revised to say that,
Four.
Number
was
4.
it 4?
Yeah, four.
I'm sorry, with condition 4 being changed to say that the applicant will coordinate the access to
1105.
1105 with the city engineer at time of development, with all other conditions listed in the staff report, and to adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report.
I would say I second, but he's just going to give it to Steve anyway, so.
Second, I said second.
Motion by Morgan, second by Kehoe, to recommend approval of this application with the revised conditions. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. That will go to City Council. Thank you for your time. All right. Next item this evening is a zoning map amendment from RA to RD, sounds familiar, zoning district and preliminary plat for Chicago Street townhomes, with an exception to allow 2 lots to exceed 10,000 square feet at 1426 Chicago Street, 6.36 acre parcel for Becky, oh boy, I can never, I get this all messed up every time. Izaguirre. Izaguirre? God, dang it. I do that every time. Izaguirre. Representing Parek Pratik for 49 single-family attached townhouse dwelling units and 2 common lots. Come on up, Ms. Izaguirre. Izaguirre. Sorry, I'll get it one of these days.
No worries. The Y is an I. Does that help?
No.
No? Okay. All right, good evening. Members of the Planning and Zoning Committee, tonight I'm excited to introduce Chicago Street Townhomes. Our goal with this development is to enhance our community by providing high-quality, individually owned townhomes. The site is located north of Iowa and east of Chicago Street. The property is located in the city of Nampa and is categorized as infill development. Infill development focuses on utilizing vacant or underutilized land within an established urban area. This strategy aims to enhance urban density and position new developments close to existing resources and infrastructure, thereby reducing sprawl. This is a top priority for the city of Nampa, as stated many times in the comprehensive plan and various public workshops. The project site is located in the city of Nampa with the zoning designation of RA. This designation is used for parcels, for this one being farmed adjacent to subdivisions containing non-farming type dwellings, but this zoning designation wasn't always RA. In 2008, the city approved a preliminary plat consisting of 64 buildable lots with a density of 8.29 dwelling units per acre and a zoning designation of RD. Obviously, this didn't come to fruition and was sold, then farmed, thus the current state and zoning designation to reflect the farming activity. But as I'm about to show you, the current RA zoning designation does not comply with the surrounding zone or the comprehensive plan. Let's see. As you can see, the city is calling for medium density residential, which focuses on urban character rather than a rural one. It emphasizes a mix of single family homes, duplexes, townhomes, aligning with the city's broader objectives. The plan advocates for compatibility over conformity in the built environment. It focuses on creating a visually harmonious streetscape with a mix of housing types and designations that cater to different lifestyles and preferences while ensuring each new development complements existing urban fabric, including the skyline and adjacent homes. This approach aligns with the comprehensive plan and the city's goals. As you can see, the property is oddly shaped, and on top of that, the Elijah Drain runs right through it, making this development more challenging. I've been working with the irrigation district to figure out how to construct an 8-foot pathway along the drain as required by the city. And we have offered to remove all necessary trees and shrubs that are located on that southern portion and northern portion. Another unique thing about this property is there's a 15-foot access easement located on the northeast corner of the property. This easement was dedicated on the Wildflower West No. 3 final plat. Before designation, before we designed, we consulted with a local land use attorney to ensure that the access was legal for the 2 single-family homes that we're going to propose. It was confirmed and cited that the state of Idaho's definition for access easement, as you can read, states, if the easement does not specifically specify the type of use, the easement is not limited to any types of access. It also states that the government entity with jurisdiction over the road or with jurisdiction over the road that the property has deeded access to denies the property owner the right to use the easement, the denial shall constitute a taking of the access right for which just compensation shall be owed. Therefore, we have legal access to the northeast corner of the property. We have also worked with fire and engineering to ensure it meets both city and fire code. Because this project is located in the city of Nampa, we are asking for approval for a preliminary plat and a rezone from RA to RD. So just south of the drain, we plan to construct 47 individually sold attached townhouse lots with a minimum lot size of 2,560 square feet, a max of 2,992 square feet, and an average of 2,560 square feet. Each townhome will feature a 2-car garage, a 2-car driveway. We will provide 26 additional parking spaces for visitors for a total of 214 parking spaces, or 4.5 spaces per unit, creating plenty of parking for living and visiting in this development. So just north of the drain will be the 2 single-family lots, each consisting of a ½ acre, and we'll take access from the access easement that I referred to in the previous slide. The overall gross density for this project is 7.7 dwelling units per acre. The qualified open space is 15.2% or 0.97 acres. In addition to this development, we will be constructing the remaining portion of Iowa Avenue, and we'll have curb, gutter, and sidewalk on the north section of the newly built road. This is a massive improvement for the city of Nampa, as it will facilitate a faster response time for emergency services and will improve all-around connectivity for the area. We also spoke to the fire chief about this connection, and he was really excited and very supportive because of the improved response times it will provide. This will also benefit the elementary school. That's kind of kitty corner right there to the property, as kids and parents can walk to and from school or utilize the grounds without having to trespass on that property, kind of to the south of the development. So there's some pluses there. So the proposed landscaping for this development aims to enhance the visual appeal and cohesiveness of the neighborhood, complementing the existing foliage and trees in the surrounding properties. Our plan includes trees, shrubs, grass throughout the development, with monument signs at the entrance of Chicago and Iowa. The development includes 15.2% of open space with a playground in the northeast corner of the development. There is also an 8-foot pathway that will run along the Elijah Drain and a 5-foot pathway that will connect south, kind of running the perimeter of the southern portion of the property. There will not be, just note, there will not be a pathway on that northern side, as connectivity is an issue with that drain there. We are also planning to work with the irrigation district to see if we can construct some sort of fencing. We just need to figure out where they want that fencing. The drain's kind of a hazard to the public. So this development will enhance the quality and character of the surrounding area by adding modern design that incorporates articulation and visual interest in the exterior via porches, pop-outs, and various material types. Each townhome will be individually platted, sold, and sold separately, and governed by HOAs and CC&Rs. The first floor will have 2-car garage, living room, kitchen, half bath, and a laundry room. The second floor will have 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. So these homes will be sold at market value, creating more homes for teachers, nurses, and many others who deserve to own homes but are having a hard time right now. So I guess in closing, innovative housing options like townhomes are a very desirable housing type. Not only are townhouses often more affordable, but they also make homeownership more accessible to a broader audience. They can elevate property values in a single-family residential neighborhood through fresh construction. Additionally, introducing a diverse housing scheme in an area dominated by singular housing type enriches the fabric of the community. Furthermore, focusing on infill development is paramount to, as it signifies more structured and orderly city expansion and prioritizes central development over continuous growth of city limits. In conclusion, our project aims to diversify the housing options in Nampa, offering more choices for potential buyers. I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Izaguirre?
Mr. Chair, if I may I have your address?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, my bad.
2471 South Titanium Place, Meridian, Idaho, 83642. Got caught up in the pronunciation.
Any questions?
I think so.
All right. Thanks. We will probably call you back up. All right. Staff report. Parker.
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Parker Bodley, Planning and Zoning Department. Again, this is the same request as the previous as far as zoning. This is a rezone from RA to RD with a preliminary plat for Chicago Street Townhomes, with an exception for 2 lots on the north side of Elijah Drain to exceed the 10,000 square foot maximum. So the area to the north, south, east, RS6 zoned. as well as, let's see, this is the Wildflower Estates surrounding it and the Discovery subdivision. To the west are as county residences. The history, this was annexed and zoned in 2007 to RD with a development agreement for fourplexes, as the applicant had mentioned. In 2008, that property, the development agreement was modified. And then in 2011, property was subsequently rezoned from RD to RA, and a development agreement for that Vintage Point townhomes was eliminated. So there currently is not a development agreement in place for that. Building department is requiring compliance with Title IV. The police department recommends a commitment to fund 0.2 officers and 0.07 staff. They currently have 144 sworn personnel and 66 non-sworn. The fire department, this is 1.4 miles from Fire Station 2 with a 5-minute response time. The irrigation district, the easement for the lashing drain is 100 feet total. The parks department is requesting the 20-foot pathway easement, and that is a 10-foot wide pathway. And then the engineering comments were provided, listing utility and right-of-way improvements for the property. This is a comment that I received at 5 o'clock today, so it wasn't sent on to you. This is from Curtis Craft. They have property across the street. Similar comments that was submitted from other neighbors as well. I won't go into detail as I covered this on the previous application. RD zoning, it would allow duplexes as well as 3 and 4 attached dwelling unit structures allowed in the medium density area. You can see this area is largely medium density. Again, smart growth principles. It should be within walking distance, schools, parks, provide qualified open space. There is commercial pieces nearby that I'll cover here in a minute, as well as this would be adding innovative housing options, which is an objective of the comprehensive plan. Maybe not innovative, but diverse, I should say. This property would be considered infill due to the fact that it's in an established area surrounded by city limits, and utilities and other services are currently available there. The properties within a half mile, there are properties within a half mile that are annex zone developed in a similar way. Most of these are on Southside Boulevard. There's a number of fourplex developments there. The current, there are uses that are existing within a mile, include the elementary school, a number of single-family residences, fourplex developments, as well as commercial uses that are mostly at Greenhurst and Southside. The homes built in this development would match the area as far as standard building construction, pitched roof, garages, yard areas, trees, landscaping. All those are required by code. Looking at the plat, it was reviewed in conjunction with the RD zoning. As far as townhouses, we require 2,500 square feet of parcel area for each townhouse. The smallest lot for the 4-unit townhouse is 9832, which is just under the 10,000 square foot requirement for a 4-unit. This is lots 24 through 27, and the condition is that they adjust that one. As far as the other ones, they meet the square foot requirement for a 4-unit townhouse. There's also 3-unit townhouses, the smallest being 7,955, and then the 2-unit townhouse is 5,326. Subsequently, looking at the largest lots, we require that they can't exceed 5,000 square feet for each townhouse. The largest master lot for the 4 units is 10,430. And so they all meet the minimums and maximums besides the lot 24 through 27, which is addressed in the conditions of approval, should you choose to recommend approval. The 2 single-family residential lots across the Elijah Drain, they exceed the 6,000 square foot maximum. For a single-family residence, they're both 21,243 and 20,979. Due to the unique configuration, topographical issues, the applicant is asking for an exception to exceed that 10,000 square foot maximum. The master lot widths are required to be greater than 30 feet, and they meet that requirement. The number of common lots is 2. Number of buildable lots is 49. It creates a gross density of 7.7, which falls within the range for medium density, which is 2.5 to 8. There were questions about gross density versus net density that were part of the public comments. We had changed our code within the last year, where we used to calculate density based on net, so we would exclude drainage easements, we would exclude non-buildable areas from our density calculations. With our code change, we look at, we calculate density based off the gross amount. So we take the number of units and we divide it by the parcel area as a total, as a whole. So in that regard, the plat meets the gross density requirement for this area. Looking at landscaping, there were some revisions requested to that. The qualified open space provided is 15.1. The minimum is 15%. They have a open space area that provides a playground in the northeast corner, just south of the Elijah Drain, as well as the walking path on the Elijah Drain. Parking, in addition to the garage parking, there's 26 visitor spaces. Code requires 0.5 spaces per unit, and this meets that requirement. At 49 lots, the development doesn't meet the threshold for traffic impact study. They would be completing frontage improvements on both Chicago and Iowa, as well as completing the gap in the roadway on Iowa. We've seen the elevation proposed in the back of the building. These would be required to go through design review as well. As far as the zoning, staff finds that the requested RD zoning is compatible with the developed area, the future land use map designation of medium density, as we have covered. The development provides a set of uses that is compatible. The development would be in the interest of the public as it utilizes city services and utilities that are already available, and it would be making traffic infrastructure improvements that are necessary. Conditions of approval are stated in the staff report. I will stand for any questions.
Parker, can you go back to the area where Iowa does not connect on both sides? And why is that? Is there a house there? I mean, all those trees, I can't say what's the reason it's not going through.
Chairman and Commissioner, I don't know the history of this. I'm not sure if Caleb does either.
Would it be beneficial for the city to make that connect?
Huge.
Commissioner, we can't require them to make that connection. I think it would ultimately be waiting for this development to occur for us to require that.
When it's your turn,
Yeah, when you come up to talk, you can address it.
in fact, I hope you will. I'll wait to hear from the gentleman, and then we'll discuss it a bit further.
Is the where the road is to be connected, is that property, is it deeded to us? Is there right of way through there that allows us to improve? Okay.
Any other questions?
Chairman, I have a quick question.
Can you speak up a little bit, Jeff? We can barely hear you.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go.
Can you hear me a little better? All right. Hey, Parker, just a quick question. When you look at compatibility, how far out surrounding the proposed project do you look for compatibility when it comes to buildings and design and all that? Is there a set, like is it a mile or a half a mile or?
Chairman and Commissioner, when we talk about compatibility in the comprehensive plan, it talks about the adjacent properties as well as the neighborhood. It doesn't give a specific distance. It would be ultimately your decision and council's decision to really determine if it's truly compatible in your elected opinions. As far as what staff looks at, there's a lot of county residences that are enclaved that it would be really difficult to be truly compatible with, as they're county residences and they're fairly large lots that are ultimately be developed at some point in the future. I mean, not against what some people may say, they will be developed at some point. So we have to consider the built environment of the city.
Okay. So in your conclusion, when you say this is considered infill and is compatible with surrounding uses, you're talking about the compatibility with surrounding uses is the residential feel, that kind of stuff, rather than specific designs and uses of houses or residential and things like that. Townhomes, apartments versus single-family residence.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Chairman and Commissioner, we consider both things, right? We consider the uses, whether those are compatible, as well as the built environment. So, common roof lines, common architecture. So considering both things.
Thank you, Parker.
Any other questions? All right, we'll go ahead and open the public testimony for this application. Do we have the sign-up sheet?
Mr. Chair, we have two signed up. The first one is Curtis Kraft.
All right. Mr. Kraft, come on up. Tell us your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to provide
Curtis
testimony.
Kraft, 1335 Chicago Street, right across from Elijah Drain. Good enough?
Perfect.
All right, I'll start off with one positive thing. I do like the modern look. My house is modern. But there's a handful of things I just want to make everyone aware. I heard the lady mention that she wants to chop all the trees down. And if Parker goes to it, all the trees are green in the picture. There are horned owls, there's hawks, and a bunch of other stuff in there. I have that many trees or more on my property. I spent $40,000 on cleaning them up and making them so the birds can stay there. There's other waterfowl, ducks, and everything else. So if they alter that, I think there should be a study done or something just to make sure they're not making something leave that shouldn't be. Let's see, I wrote things down. I was just curious what the cost of the townhomes are versus what an actual home would cost if they put low housing costs in there instead. I'd be game for putting houses up instead of trying to squish that many into a tiny area. I know they're trying to make Napa that much better and more beautiful, but doing 15.1%, so it's 0.1% more than what you guys are asking for making it pretty. I mean, if you're really trying to make something great for the county and for the city, I think something should be a little higher. If I'm coming to you, I'm like, great, I'm doing 25%. Look how beautiful it is. I'm not just doing the bare minimum. The other thing was, How many spaces? 214 stalls. So you're adding 214 more vehicles going up and down that road many times a day. That's part of it. The other part is I don't know if they're parking in the streets. If they're allowed on the CCNRs to park in streets, it's not driveways. You're going to be adding a lot more congestion and everything else. The value would definitely drop. My house is well over $1 million. I'm not planning on splitting up the front. I'm actually putting a pond and a shop and other stuff up there. So I know they mentioned that you don't know what's going to be happening. Come back in late summer, you'll see what I got going. It's close enough.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
that's it. All right, we will address the questions and. All right, next on the sign-up sheet, please.
Next is Mr. Jason Ninehouse.
My name is Jason Ninehouse. I'm at 1425 Chicago Street. And I'm the parcel just to the west of this one. I guess the answer, the history on the road there and why the road doesn't go through is due to the fact that that's always been ag there. Both these parcels were ag. There's cattle on both these parcels, and there's no need for development by the previous owners, which Troutman. They had no reason why to lose some of their land and their livelihood in order to allow the city to punch a road through for the school. And so they were the ones that opposed originally that road going through. The previous development that was put on the table, it was, I think, ended up going by the wayside because of capacity on sewer at that point in time. And so, because too, I'm on that 5.5 acres there, we were looking at development at one point in time, 18 years ago, and we're told that we could develop. Capacity was there. I bought the property, came back, city told me that, oh, sorry about that, but we were just joking. You don't have capacity for sewer. So we made it our family home, and we've lived there for 18 years and continue to do so. I've got a 5.5 acre parcel. The interesting thing about the city comments and conforming is last time I was in the city, I asked about potentially splitting off, an acre or so on my parcel to put in 4 or 5 townhomes. And over the desk, I was told that I could try that, but good luck, because that's not what the city's looking for in this area. It's not really a conforming use to the single-family residents that are through there with the lot size and whatnot. So it's surprising to me that 40-something units is even on the table here for that small tract of land. I'm all for the 2 houses up on that corner. Obviously, that's no problem. I mean, that's conforming to the area. 40-something units on the large parcel is not conforming whatsoever. I mean, you can pan out through the neighborhood, through the area, and you'll see nothing like that. So I guess definition of infill, that would absolutely be infill if you're going to smash that many the homes into that area. You mentioned that some of the conforming stuff that fits into this nature are on Southside Boulevard. I mean, I get it. Southside's kind of a main arterial. That's what we'd expect for a higher density commercial multifamily properties. The same goes for power line. Power line is the same thing. Major arterial, yeah, multifamily, great. To me, I look at that, the design of the units here, and to me, this is a rental complex. This is not a single family development. And so I know we can say that they're single family. Yeah, they're deeded as single family parcels. But looking at that map right there, that shows to me single-family residence, and I'm not seeing too many rental complexes in the area. The big thing with developers right now, and I don't know what the intent of these people are, if they're going to have any sort of restrictions in their HOAs regarding rentals or not, but I know that there's some areas that will put in their HOAs that these houses will not be rented and cannot be rented, and they have to be owner-occupied units, even if the density was spread out to a more reasonable 6,000 square foot lot. Again, build to rent's very common in development, and I could see a developer putting this in as, owner-occupied, single family. They maintain the whole thing as a build to rent community. Joke's on you that they were putting up a single family complex for diversity in the neighborhood. So anyways, I could go on and on and on about reasonings. I was one of the people that wrote some comments.
We hear your comments.
For the staff report.
Your 3 minutes has expired, so we
Okay.
appreciate the comments, and we'll talk to you after. Do we have the clock somewhere? Oh, okay. I'll use it. I apologize for that.
I was just getting ready to hit the button.
Okay. All right. Next on the list.
Those were the only two signed up.
Okay. Is there anybody in the audience here that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on the application? Come on up, sir. Come on up. State your name and address for the record, and we'll.
Tried signing up, but I might have clicked the wrong thing
Okay.
there. Name's Alex Schaefer. Live in Boise, but I own the property, 1606 South 26th, the property you're talking about. Why the road doesn't go through, that's actually my property there. And the reason it doesn't go through is I bought the property in 2007. It's a half-acre property just due south of this parcel. Like the other gentleman said, it was agricultural. The city did during the development when I bought it. It was split in half. It used to be an acre. I bought a half acre. The guy that sold it to me in 2007 put in a clause that the city had an easement through it, through that property on the north side in case there was further development at some time. So that's the reasoning there. It hasn't been touched since then because of the lack of development. I'd like to, if there's a way to look at the staff notes, commissioners, I don't know if the staff report, or is that available?
Yeah, we have it in front of us. Yeah.
Okay. A couple of things I'd like to note. Page 3 talks about the comprehensive plan, a couple of the objectives. Innovative housing. I would definitely kind of question the innovative housing. Later in this staff report, it talks about major arterials. I don't remember the exact nomenclature, but talking about having multi-family units and major arterials. This is the only one in this area. And I don't oppose development at all. I wouldn't be opposed in any way to even the street going through on my property and losing a chunk of my land and having houses there. But the 49 seems to be a huge impact. It's the only ones there. Right now, we're not a Stanley or Sun Valley dark sky reserve, but it feels like that. When you go out there, there's not a lot of street lights, there's not a lot of noise, and there will definitely be a lot of noise with 49 units there. And how many, would we say, 200 and some cars? So the other thing, I think, as you go through the staff report, I think the developers have done a good job of meeting the minimums when it's 15% for green land, and we got 15.1. When it's 1.5 miles for fire department, and we got 1.5 miles, or I would say 1.4, I think. When it's 5-minute response, we got a 5-minute response. When it's a 1 mile to some kind of public area, being the southwest corner of this 640 acres, southeast corner, I'm sorry. There's a lot of minimums just barely met, the 7.7 acres per unit. So we're basically catering the development to just meet the mark on the NAMPA requirements on every single item. The other one that I think we should look at is when we talk about the traffic on there, it's not required, 49 units, right? Not required to do a traffic report. I think this requires that. We're putting in a new road that's going to a school. And I would then also add to that, we probably need to look at the impact on that school. I know that's also up for grabs right now. What are we doing with the school? It's one of the 3 that we're looking at closing. So are we putting a bunch of kids in that neighborhood, in theory, that no longer can walk to a school? As according to the board, the school board, they're recommending closure of that. So how does that impact this same area? So again, quite a few minimums on that. So.
Wrap up when you can.
Okay. Well, that's up to page 5, but I'll leave the rest for that then. So I just feel like 49 units excessive. maybe 15 units, 20 units, an R2 type thing. I don't know exactly all the zoning over here in Canyon County, but I've had 3 properties over here, and this is the last one I have. But so I don't oppose the development, but the number of units where it's not an arterial, basically it's almost a dead-end street at this point.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else present that would like to speak on this application? Come on up. State your name and address for the record and tell us what's on your mind.
My name is James Callahan. I live on 2325 Yucca Place that's on the north end of the Elijah. And I've been there since 1983. We have seen, even when Mr. Troutman lived there in that residence that's in that property right now, before he moved on, we've noticed, and now, even still, there's you still have wildlife that comes through there. There's owls that live up in that area around that canal. There's also cranes. I see ducks. I see all sorts. I've even seen a fox come through here. It's really, yeah, there's been 2 deers I've seen travel through there and going into your property. I think it's going to create a big impact, and I don't think it's going to be a good idea that we're going to look at developing that for building a bunch of apartments like that, or townhouses.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Another one coming up.
Absolutely, come on up. Just state your name and address and tell us what's on your mind.
I'm Linda
I'm gonna find
Schaefer. I live at 1606 South 26th.
Okay, great.
On the property that borders a lot of the land that you're talking about. I just had something brief to say. First, I wanted to thank Parker for answering the email that I sent off about a week ago to the P&Z because of questions that I was hearing that were coming up for myself and for neighbors in the subdivision that we border on, which is the Port Meadows. People coming together and talking about how grateful they were to live in that nice little community that feels safe for kids to be not necessarily they're not assigned to play on the street, but it's not too bad if the basketball goes out onto the street and you can go out and play in that area and ride your bike safely. That group decided to pull a meeting together just recently, a couple nights ago, and in the rain, those neighbors, about 20 people, came out to chat about this project because they were all trying to figure out how do we represent what we're thinking and wondering about and ask the questions that we wanted to ask. As far as I can tell, everybody in that group was worried that there was going to be a very large structure in the field that wasn't going to fit with the community and was going to create danger because of additional traffic. I guess I could say ditto to some of the things that others have said before me tonight, worrying about the extra 200, 250 cars, however many, the noise, all the rest of it. I also noticed in some of the research that I did online, just trying to get myself educated about this, I have been at this property just for 7 years. I lived in northern Idaho before that. And one of the things I read had said something about the actual usable land for this project is about just a little under 4 acres. And I know I emailed Parker asking him again if he could help me with an explanation of how you decide the density. Because the question that came up with the group the other night was that this project would go on essentially 4 acres rather than 6.35, which includes the drain, the Elijah drain, and that those 2 half-acre parcels that other gentlemen have mentioned. So I guess I just came here tonight because I've attended a lot of meetings in my life, and this is the first P&Z I've ever attended anywhere in the towns that I've lived in. So this is fun.
Well, welcome.
Thank you. I just wanted to come here to be one of the people, because I know from our little community, I'm not in that subdivision, but I feel like I am because the neighborhood kids come and trick or treat at my house. And when I look around here in this room tonight, I see some people here that look like some of the group that got together the other night in the rain for 40 minutes underneath the street light to talk about this. Nobody got scared off by the rain. So that's it. Thank you for letting me share my thoughts.
Thanks, Ms. Shea.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Anything you wanted for me on feedback or no?
We're good.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, is there anybody in the audience that would like to speak on this application? Now is your time. Okay. Seeing none, we'll have the applicant back up to address concerns and answer some questions, if you can.
All right, thank you. So I just want to start off by saying that these are not going to be apartments. These are going to be single-family homes for sale. Whether or not they choose to rent them is their decision. It's just like anybody else that lives down the street in a single-family home that chooses to rent their homes out. We can put some provisions in the CCNRs, but it's really no different than a single-family homeowner deciding to rent his or her home out. It's the same thing. And these homes will be sold at market value, and right now with prices, they're $400,000, $350,000 to $400,000. I mean, that's quite a lot of money. So these will not be affordable housing. These homes won't be affordable housing. And as far as the wildlife goes, you know, we were just wanting to clean. We're not going to clear the drain of any trees, right? The irrigation company owns that. We can't do anything in that without their permission. So it's ultimately left up to them what they decide to do with that drain. It's not our decision whatsoever. So we had just offered, there's just a lot of like you know, for them to access the drain and for them to clean the drain and maintain the drain, we offered to clean it up. We're not removing trees. In fact, if we get this development approved, we'll be adding more trees. We'll be adding a significant amount of trees, as you can see from the landscaping plan. So it'll actually enhance wildlife. So there's that. Let's see here. And as far as compatibility issues, we need homes. As you all probably know, there's a national housing shortage. There's a housing shortage in the Treasure Valley. I've been trying to look for a home. It is very hard, very expensive. So we do need homes, and you can't just keep denying homes just because, you know, there are compatibility, perceived compatibility issues. As far as we're concerned, this is compatible. Having a bunch of single-use type homes in a community doesn't provide a vibrant community. And by adding fresh construction, it will actually increase property values. And so, let's see, what else? I think.
Can you explain the parking count? Because I think there's a little confusion about that.
Sure.
With requirements versus guest parking, and I think the perception that there's going to be 200 cars coming and going every day.
Sure.
May or may not materialize. So can you speak to that a little bit?
Absolutely. So we will be providing 26 additional parking spots. So it's just all of the parking. Kind of wish I had a pointer, but it's just kind of all the parking there outside of the townhouse lots. And that's just going to be for guests or anybody who, you know, they want to come visit for a birthday party or whatnot. So that is why there is so many parking. We don't want people parking on the street. That's why we put so many parking spots there, to try and alleviate that. And then as far as the count goes, you know, it'll be a 2-car garage with a 2-car driveway. So that's.
Or potential parking spots, but theoretically, people would park in their garage. Yeah. Unless their garage is full of things, then they can
Yes.
park outside.
Yes.
Okay. What else? Am I missing? You answered cost, So in your presentation, you talked about, I think you said you were going to take out a lot of trees, but now you're saying on the drain, having experience as a developer, the irrigation district does kind of preside and they tell you what you can and can't do. So I guess your plan is not to go take all the trees out and
We
eliminate
can't.
all that, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully that provides a little bit of clarity there. Anything on my notes? We can ask staff about densities, gross versus net. I think we can cover that. But anything else you had?
Nope, that's it.
Any other comments,
Chairman, I'd like to make a
questions?
Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
Iowa Avenue, have you spoken to anybody in the city or the property owners or anybody about?
Yes, we have.
What's the result of discussions?
Yep. So we talked to the gentleman back there about it. And we worked with him quite extensively this past spring, I believe. And then we also worked with the city as they're requiring Iowa to be pushed through. And so everybody's on board. The property owner just to the south, we worked with them throughout to try and figure out, how to save their structures on the north. That's why we're only constructing the 20-foot roadway section at this time and not putting a sidewalk on that southern portion. That's why there will only be a sidewalk on that northern portion. So when the time comes and the city needs to construct the rest, they can. But we're just doing that to save their portion of their property.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Comments? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question for staff.
Okay.
Caleb, can you address the road situation now? You said that they make available.
The Iowa going through?
Yeah. That's what I gathered from what you just said.
Yeah, so the right-of-way exists. That was deeded, so it's not just an easement. It is platted right-of-way or deeded right-of-way to the city. There is sufficient right-of-way there to extend the road through and not have any impact to the structures that are there. So it's a requirement in that the intent was always for that road to go through. It's Iowa on both sides. There's barricades that indicate, future extensions. So that's always been the intent to have that road connection. Do you have any other questions?
Yeah, the question is, will it happen or are we just talking about it?
It will happen if the development happens. This is not a priority for the city to expend capital improvement dollars on extending that road.
I think with the school being right there, the emphasis should be on safety, and having the road go through, I think, would help to increase the access to the school.
Correct.
So you'll make due diligence to get that road built through there?
The city will not put that as a priority on its capital improvement list, if that's what you're asking, no. There are, as you know, there are far more pressing needs throughout the city for transportation improvements. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, or are we ready to close?
I'll make a motion, we close the public hearing.
Second.
All right. The motion by Commissioner Gardner, second by Kehoe to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Public hearing is closed. What's on your?
Can I get you to bring up the overhead of the neighborhood for me, please? Go to the other one, too, the one that's farther out. Doesn't have any writing. It's got all this RS6 and goes all the way to South Side. If you got that one. That's all right. That's okay. That's close enough. So my concern with this is when you read our Napa City Code, Title 10, Chapter 10, it says the RD2 family residential district is intended to provide a variety of housing types by transitioning between single-family dwellings and higher density land uses. this isn't transitioning between anything. It's being plopped right in the middle of nothing but RS6 mainly. I mean, you got to get clear over the south side before you get to multifamily type stuff. And we've been approving the multifamily on south side and Greenhurst and Happy Valley, the major arterials, because that kind of gives a buffer between the major arterials and the single-family detached homes behind it. Plus, it's easier access for all those multifamily vehicles to hit a major arterial and get going. To me, putting this in the middle of all that RS6 basically is not where it should go. I'm all for townhomes. I'm all for single family. I'm against putting anything in the CC&Rs that say you got to limit the rentals, because we all know life happens and occasionally we have to move. And if you have to move to another state for work or something during a down economy, the last thing you want to do is sell your house for a loss. And if you can rent it for a couple of years, that makes a lot more sense. So I don't like that kind of stuff in the CC&Rs. I think property owners should be able to do what they want, but I just don't feel this conforms and fits in with the surrounding neighborhoods, because it's all detached. You got to go quite a ways to get to anything that's multifamily. So I like the design and everything, but I don't see it fitting in that neck of the woods with it, all those other houses around it.
Tom, what about this though? So I'm thinking, if you go down Iowa, the South Power Line, there's a whole slew of townhomes just right there. So I'd say, within maybe a half a mile?
Yeah.
It's on South Power Line, like you said, right? It's a busier street, but it's also right by the school. And so a lot of times we'll get those Compass reports about walkability. And so having that number of units, which are single-family residences that close to the school, is kind of a cool deal.
Yeah.
If that school stays.
Yeah.
Does anybody here
Even if it doesn't, even if it doesn't, we don't know. And if they closed it now, it may be opened up in a few years. You never know. Right. So planning around that is not what I'm looking at. I'm just looking at, and yeah, I like the idea.
I get what you're saying.
Kids can go walk to an elementary school that close, but when you look at the zoning around it, you take out the county properties that are still enclaved. Everything else is RS6, and it just, to me, doesn't fit that little neighborhood. But I'll shut up.
Chairman Bonhoeffer?
Yes.
Yeah, if I could, that's kind of the same thoughts I had when I asked that question to Parker about compatibility. And for me, there's two compatibilities. There's a compatibility of uses, which this definitely fits. It's residential, it's single-family homes, even though they're attached. But the other compatibility issue is the, what does it look like? Is this the right spot for these higher density residential? And I don't think so. Looking at the surrounding areas, you've got to go half mile or so, either east or west or north or south, to find some of those compatible residences that I think, and I just don't think it fits right smack in the middle of everything else that's there. I mean, just to the west, across the street, you got 5 acres. I mean, that's hardly compatible. I know it's not in the city, but it's hardly compatible with that 5-acre parcel just across the street. Again, I like the 2 single-family lots up north, and even those are half-acre lots, so those are a lot larger than surrounding lots. So I love the infill project. I love that we're looking at these and making sure that we're taking these applications on to try to infill some of these spots. But I just don't think this particular project, proposed project, is with townhomes right there is compatible as far as the surrounding existing homes and neighborhoods. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
I think I feel the same way as Tom and Jeff. I think, and I don't even know if I hate the idea of duplexes or townhomes here, but if you kind of compare what they're showing here to, say, the 2 that were abutting the last one we looked at, like those just had like one road in. I don't know, with their own developed. This one's got like extra parking spaces, and that seems like a positive, right? But it does make it feel more like a complex, even though I know it's technically not. We had the comment about how they're barely meeting all of the city requirements. To me, that sounds like that's what they're supposed to do. They're meeting that. On the other side of that coin is they're meeting all of the code requirements. So my question is, if they're meeting the comp plan and they're meeting all of the requirements for the proposed zoning, this is to our new friend on the end here. Are we going to get ourselves in trouble for telling them they can't build something that we say they can build? Can we lean on the compatibility part? Because I agree that it's not compatible with the surrounding zones here.
It's a rezone in a plat, right? So
we have some leeway, right?
we have leeway on the rezone, I believe. Not to steal Mr. Borton's thunder. But
That's correct. And that'd be the basis if it's a recommendation to deny. That would be the basis for what the recommendation is considered. The discussion on the records put forth your reasons pretty clearly.
I mean, I look at the parcel, and I'm not voting on this issue unless, well, we don't have an odd number tonight, so I'm not voting on this application. But given the parcel configuration, the drain going through there, the way Iowa sits in there, it's going to make it really hard to develop a single family. Just thinking about it, and with the proximity to the school. Be unpopular here, but it provides a variety of housing types with costs where they are. I mean, the applicant said it's not affordable, but it's more affordable than buying a single family house on a 10,000 acre lot or 6,000 acre lot.
I think that's some of the things that it has going for it, right, is the fact that you have the Eliza drain, which is a buffer between that and the neighborhood above, and then you have the school right there, which is also a positive because you're adding density next to the school because it's walkable and it's near, shopping as well. But the fact that you have the larger county lot that's right next to it, so you are really in a fairly insulated spot to put that development.
And if I can put my 2 cents worth in, I agree with Matt that I like the denser housing closer to schools. It's easier for the kids to walk. It's most of the schools are in dire need of more students. This may help make that decision to keep the school open. 49 residents, if they had one child each. So I'd definitely be not definitely, but I'm in favor of the application.
I think they'll make their decision on the school long before this will ever see any dirt turned. I mean, they're probably not going to be building on that for a couple of years, most likely. So that school will either be mothballed or continue to run without this.
How old is the school? Do you know? Anybody know how long?
How old is the school, Jeff?
It's older than me. No, it's about 20. I don't know. It's probably 15 years old.
It's more.
But the decision on the schools will be made Monday, probably at the board meeting.
For those of you that
1980, around 1980. Yeah, I was gonna say it's older than me.
You're just a kid.
Yeah, Morgan's 12 years old.
just for the public, this person Jeff is speaking is on the school board as well as the Planning and Zoning Commission. So we look to him a lot for information, inside information about what the schools are planning on doing. So thank you, Jeff.
Oh, hold on just a second. Now, just because you said that in a public meeting, I have to rebut. There is not any. I don't discuss anything on the school board in any planning and zoning meeting,
Right,
and vice
that.
versa.
No.
Thanks, Mr. Kehoe.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I don't see what we've learned about the school and what they're considering in the news the last few days to have any bearing on on which way we go with this. Because like I say, they could mothball it for a few years and then open it back up. So that, to me, I don't see weighing that as any portion of this. I just don't feel it fits with all the RS6 around it to fit in that neighborhood. But
I see both points. I do. But I also see mixed housing, and like Commissioner Vannacker said, I can appreciate the costs of housing. And you know, if you did split this up, how would you split it up? It'd more than likely be large lots, which are going to raise the costs significantly on those houses, and put it out of the reach of most people. It wouldn't then necessarily fit in the neighborhood either, because it wouldn't necessarily be RS6. They'd be a lot bigger than 6,000 square foot lots. So how would you develop it other than something like this? I don't know, does it fit?
I think it feels more dense because of all the unusable space on that lot.
Sure.
You know, because we're going by that gross density calculation now. Maybe if it was spread out on more of the, yeah, there's a good picture of it. But.
You know, I think even if there was an increase in the in the green space from 15.1% to maybe 25, and maybe eliminate some of those, and just reduce the number of townhomes, maybe it would be more compatible with the area around there rather than just, again, packing all those townhomes in.
Yeah, I would be concerned in limiting density and something that fits within our code for medium density residential. I mean, this is a recommendation to city council. It's going to go there either way, whatever recommendation we give. I think compatibility is something we can make a decision based on. I mean, issue for me is it checks all the land use boxes.
I think for me, when somebody comes in with a project like this and they meet the criteria to be able to do this project, I would like to err on the side of allowing a home or a property owner their rights to develop in the way that they see fit, because they own the property and they've gone through this development process, they've met the requirements, and I think that I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, right? That they've done their due diligence and they know what they want to do with the project, and be very careful in saying, I don't feel, because that just goes to my feelings. And I got to be very careful with that and guarded, because yeah, I'm on this commission and that's what I'm here for, but I don't want to be so quick to say, well, I don't feel like it fits according to what I think, so I'm not going to vote for it. And I feel, like I said, for the other reasons I've already mentioned, I think that it does meet the criteria for them to be able to develop this property that way. So I will vote for it.
And I think at this point, as we mentioned, the developer has done everything, but it's the bare minimum, but still, he met the code. And to say no now is like pulling the rug out from underneath them without any consideration.
Except for it is currently zoned RA, and they're asking for a zoning change. So it doesn't fit with the current zoning.
Well, that's true, but
so
it would have to be anything anyway.
But whatever they decide to do, if they decide to try to do something with it and change the zoning, that's nothing on us if they want to try to change it. Right now, it does not fit in the zoning. So in order to get it to fit, the zoning's got to be changed.
But they met all our
And like I
requirements.
say, if they came in with an RS6 type proposal, I think it would be great because it would fit everything else. And I granted, like say, with that drain that really screws things up. But I just, with everything else, when you look at the overhead of that area, it's not on a major arterial, and it's sitting right in the middle of a bunch of other houses. And so to me, it just does not fit that neighborhood. But
Compatibility is a requirement, just like density and open space and everything else.
now, if it was already a zoned RD, then by all means, they're doing what they're allowed to do. But right now, what they're asking to do is not allowed in the zoning that's currently there.
Mr. Chair, if I could, just a couple of comments to what Commissioner Garner and Kehoe are saying, and I appreciate what Garner was saying. But the reason there is a Planning and Zoning Commission is to look at some of those subjective things that come before the commission, and it's not just necessarily what we feel. That's why we have a public meeting. That's why we have public testimony, is to get what the community feels also with this project. And sometimes it helps change our mind, and sometimes we see things that we don't necessarily see without them. And so we do have the ability, again, as a commission, to look at all aspects of this, and not just because every box is checked does every project fly through. And I know we all know that, but sometimes, you know, we tend to lean on that. Just because a developer is checking all the boxes doesn't necessarily mean we have to approve it, because we do have some subjectivity there to look at some of these other things like compatibility. And again, I am for the project itself if it was just a little less dense and it's a little bit more compatible with the surrounding areas. If it was closer to the south side or closer to power line, I would be way more in favor of this project. But since it's right in the middle of all that, where it is now, I'm just having a hard time getting to that compatibility factor. So.
We haven't heard from you.
I was just going to say, Commissioner Selman,
I'm
quiet down there.
Yes, I am quiet down here. It's a hard decision. I can see Matt's side very well. I feel that way too. You know, I'm here to follow the code and the laws that we set down for our city, and then I see the other side as well. So I'm really torn, but I'm leaning more towards yes than for it than
I think
no.
all of us are. I think we're all in that same boat. We're right.
So what happens if we turn, well, I guess we're not turning it down. We recommend turning
We're either recommending or not.
It goes to council and they
happens if
decide
it
what they
gets
want to do.
turned down? How do you develop this lot that's helpful to the city?
That's up to the developer.
Right, well, I guess just, I don't have a good imagination, but.
No, but I think that
You see what I'm asking.
what Jeff said, right? I mean, if they came back and they eliminated a few of the units, but that's up to them if they wanted to do that and try
to be more
redo it.
compatible.
I don't know. Yeah.
Because, I mean, there are some advantages to this. You know, you get some lower cost housing, I know.
Or, I mean,
You get Iowa fixed up. You get
the applicant could take our comments here tonight and modify the plan too for council. We don't know, right? Is that a possibility? Or if they change density and things?
If they reduce their density and they still fall within the density allowed by the zone and the comprehensive plan, they can do that. It's a plat that's being recommended, so it needs to substantially comply with that plat, but we have done that many times where we've reduced the number of units by a certain number, and that could be one of your recommendations, or you could not give a specific number, but if you decided to recommend this on to City Council, you could suggest that it be slightly reduced or more than slightly, or that's up to you on density, but that's an option.
I think I'd hesitate making a specific recommendation like that. I would more give our reasons why, if we go that way, and let them decide if they want to try to make it more compatible, if that's the finding.
So you're saying recommend approval with the concern that we feel, as planning and zoning, that it's not compatible at the current design based on the density, and let them
That seems.
flesh that out in the
If
hearing?
it's not compatible, we need to say we recommend denial because it's not compatible.
That would be a
And-
kind of a,
And if they want to come back and say, here's how we make it more compatible, whether it's by reducing density or
Yeah.
whatever, but I'd be hesitant to say, you need to reduce the density. I don't know, that seems more troubling than saying, make it more compatible.
And I could go with that.
Let the people who are professional land planners decide how to make it more compatible.
Okay. We still need a motion.
You're right there, Drew.
We need a timer.
We did, yeah, we
did.
closed the public.
Yeah, we closed it. Did we not close it?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we took a vote for it.
I recommended it.
Yeah. Were you asleep? Oh, gotcha. Good one.
Well, if I make the motion, I'm going to make the motion to deny it, so
To recommend denial.
I recommend denial.
And giving them the option
There you
of
go.
how they would be.
Nope, because I don't believe it's compatible with the surrounding neighborhood in the RS6 zoning that it's trying to go right in the middle of. If it was on a major arterial, I'd have a whole different opinion about it, but right in the middle there with nothing but neighborhood streets, it just does not fit for me.
I would second that motion if you made it, Tom.
Gosh.
Go, Tom.
Come on, Jeff, give it to us.
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move to recommend denial of the zoning map amendment from RA, suburban residential, to RD, two-family duplex residential zoning district and preliminary plat for Chicago Street townhomes at 1426 Chicago Street. A 6.36 acre parcel for Becky Geary, representing
Izaguirre.
Parek. Izaguirre, representing Parek Pratik, because of compatibility with surrounding residential areas.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Kirkman and a second by Morgan recommending denial of this application. Do I need to reread the whole thing, Mr. Attorney, or can I? Okay. And given the discussion we've had, let's do a roll call vote on this one. Please, Madam Clerk.
Garner,
Nay.
Miller,
Nay.
Daffer, Turner,
Yes.
Kehoe,
Hey,
Morgan,
Yes.
Kirkman,
Aye.
Selman,
Nay.
Motion fails, right? So we need a new motion.
You need a new motion.
Oh, okay. Well,
Right there.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to recommend approval of zoning map amendment from RA to RD. With an exception to allow two lots to exceed 10,000 square feet at 1426 Chicago Street for Becky Izaguirre, representing Parek Pratik, with all conditions of the staff report, and to adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report.
Second. That's Matt, that's not Steve.
Got you. We have a motion by Miller and a second by Gardner to recommend approval of this application to City Council. Roll call vote, please, Madam Clerk.
Garner?
Aye.
Miller?
Aye.
Turner?
No, nay.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Morgan?
No.
Kirkman?
No.
Selman?
Yay.
Okay, so that motion carries. All right, that will go in front of City Council. And we'll move on to the next item. Anybody need a break, or are we good? Okay.
Let's finish it.
Yep, one item left on the agenda this evening is an annexation and zoning to RS 8.5 zoning district on a .59 acre parcel at 2723 Comanche Street for Daniel Narsavage and Narsavage. Okay, Narsavage and Catherine Pickett for connection to city sewer services. Coming up, Mr. Narsavage, and tell us what you'd like to do. You got 5 minutes, or seven.
My name is Dan Narsavage.
7 minutes, sorry.
2723 Comanche Street. Our septic system failed. We cannot get a permit to make a new septic system because Nampa City Sewer is available. So we have to connect to city sewer. In fact, we have connected to city sewer. But in the process of doing that, we had to request annexation. So here I am.
That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
All right. If you have nothing else, we'll hear the staff report, and then we'll call you back up here if there's any questions.
We just say we've already read the staff.
Okay, thank you. Nope, we have to read it again, or at least go over it. Rodney does a good job of that, and quickly.
The Cliff Notes, Rodney.
I can't get my
If we don't allow it, what are you going to do? Go over and rip his sewer line?
presentation to do anything.
Sure you don't want to just have Parker do this one too? You're doing all the work all night anyway. It's bad.
Well, for some reason, my screen is frozen. So, yeah, it's not doing anything.
Don't want to share that, sorry. What are you trying to...
That, but I can't get it to present. And it won't go to the next slide or anything.
Do you mind if I close it and open it?
Thank you.
Okay.
He'll do it. Oh, yeah. Mr. Chair and Commissioners, sorry about that. Parker's going to show the screen for me. This is is this right? Yeah, there it is.
Yep.
Okay. As you can see, this is just pretty simple, straightforward. It's for sewer connection. Our recommendation is for approval. Here's the standard bulk requirements for the zone that's being requested. I think it's an RS6. Oh, nope, sorry, RS 8.5. Those are the bulk standards. I did want to highlight this one comment from the engineering team. Comanche Street is fully improved already, so no need for additional right-of-way there. And this is in the comp plan as medium density residential. Proposed zoning is RS 8.5, and you can see that the RS 6 is in the near vicinity, but the RS 8.5 matches the size of this parcel a lot better. There's the parcel up close. It is contiguous to the city on that southwest corner. Here's the proposed conditions, pretty straightforward conditions. These are from engineering. The proposed findings are in your packet. And these are the conclusions that I found. It's pretty simple. And here's a motion for your consideration.
We make them do it, might as well approve it.
All right. Any questions for Rodney? All right. We will go ahead and open the public testimony for this item. Is there anybody signed up, Madam Clerk?
Yes, we have two signed up. First is Miss Carrie Bowers.
Okay. Ms. Bowers, just state your name and address for the record, please, and tell us what's on your mind.
Carrie
You got
Bowers,
3 minutes.
3321 Seminole, Nampa. So we're across the street in the Indian Village town subdivision. We want to make sure that this is the only house that is annexed into the city. Most of Indian Village does not want to be annexed. We do not like that we can't get a septic permit if our septics go out. That's a little bit concerning to all of the residents there. So for him to have to be annexed into the city just so that he can be on a sewer because he couldn't get a septic permit doesn't seem quite right to any of us at Indian Village. We want to make sure this is the only house that's annexed into the city.
The only one tonight, but if your sewer breaks tomorrow, then you might be back.
Why? Why is that?
Ask the attorney over there.
Southwest District, that's a Southwest District Health question.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. That the requirement is that in order to connect to city services, you're going to be annexed.
Yeah, we don't want to connect to city services. Why couldn't he get the septic permit?
That's a lengthier, different discussion than what's on tonight's application.
Okay,
before.
so is it only including his house?
Yes, yeah. Tonight,
Thank
the
you.
action is only on his property.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, next on the sign-up sheet.
Second is, it's okay? Okay.
Okay, thank you. We're good. Anybody else in the audience this evening that would like to speak for, against, or undecided on this application?
No other signees.
No, they're signed up? Okay. Nobody else here?
Chairman, make a motion to close public hearing.
Second.
Do we want to, well, I think the
Sorry,
app,
messed up the system.
I was letting Steve's.
so I guess before we do that, I'd just ask the applicant if you have any other questions or concerns, or just give you an opportunity to speak before we're going to
For the
close you out.
record, it wasn't on our to-do list to be annexed either, so, the end.
Okay. Well, sorry you had to do it, but, all right. So now I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I make the motion to close the public hearing.
I second it again.
All right, motion by Kehoe, second by Selman to close this public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, motion carries. Public hearing's closed.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I make the motion to approve the annexation and zoning to RS 8.5 zoning district on a .59 acre parcel at 2723 Comanche Street for Daniel Savage, Catherine Pickett, with all conditions listed in staff report, and to adapt the proposed findings of fact.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I think we're recommending approval for the annexation and zoning, right? Not, we don't get to approve this, but you'll have to go to council and they'll approve it or not.
Correct.
Okay. All those in favor of recommending approval for this application, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. So we'll go to city council. And thank you for your time this evening and your patience.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second. Darn.
Selman with the, always has the motion to adjourn.
That's right.
All those in favor to adjourn?
Aye.
Any opposed?